Once again, we are here to discuss the regressive left. In this video I will focus on one of the more egregious aspects of the regressive left, namely moral relativism. I have already made a video about it, but here I want to expand on what I said there. In this video I will once again try to clarify what moral relativism is, and then suggest ways to defeat the arguments of moral relativists. Now, first of all, it is important that we learn to distinguish between moral relativism and cultural relativism, so I will repeat what I said in the other video. Cultural relativism is the idea that people's activities and beliefs should be understood in the terms of their own culture, and that no culture is superior to others. That includes customs, manners, taste, and everything else that is a cultural construct. The cultural relativist argues that you cannot claim that your culture's music, food, manners, and so forth are superior to those of other cultures. It's all relative. I believe that most of us agree with that argument, and most of us are cultural relativists. And yet, there is currently a pushback against the idea of cultural relativism, including among many liberals. Why? Because they think that cultural relativism also implies that morality is relative. They object to moral relativism, and therefore they think that they should reject cultural relativism as well. But their mistake is assuming that morality, too, is a cultural construct, when actually it is not at all obvious. Some philosophers do believe in moral relativism, i.e. that morality is culturally determined and no morality is better than the other. But there is another approach, much more reasonable in my opinion, that claims morality is universal and above cultural differences. Morality is born from our nature as a social animal, and our need to live together in a functioning society. That need dictates a set of primary laws, which are the same for every human culture. What is different between the cultures are the secondary laws, the way in which the primary laws are translated within the context of the culture. So, for instance, thou shalt not kill is a primary law. You have it in every culture. The only moral justification to the killing of a human is if it is necessary to prevent the death of other humans. And yet, we see that there are cultures around the world in which humans are being killed for being apostates, or for having a homosexual relationship. How can this be explained? Well, if you ask a Muslim who believes apostates and gays should be killed to justify his position, there are two possible replies. He will either say that this is the word of Allah, and we must obey, or he will try to justify it rationally, in which case he will probably say that gays and apostates lead to a corruption of morality, which in turn will lead to a crumbling of the social order and as a result to a lot more killings. So, we see, it is ultimately explained by adhering to the thou shalt not kill principle. It is just that the logic of their culture leads them to the conclusion that homosexuality and apostasy are a cause of mass death, and that leads to a secondary law which says that it is ethical to kill gays and apostates. So how do we defeat their claims? Well, if a Muslim tells you that this is the word of Allah, you can point out that there are other Muslims who do not believe gays and apostates should be killed, and ask him how come they disagree with him. He might reply that they are not real Muslims, in which case you can prod a bit further and ask him who made him the authority to decide, but I would advise you not to waste too much time on such a person. Alternatively, he might answer that these are different interpretations of Islam, in which case you tell him that this means that the death sentence to gays and apostates comes not from Allah, but from him. He has chosen an interpretation that leads him to kill humans, even though another possible interpretation exists, which means that he has broken the thou shalt not kill command. At this point you have essentially won the argument and proven his immorality. Now, if he resorts to trying to rationalize it, then he has come to play in your ballpark. You are now having a debate on universal, rational grounds, which means that you can attack his rationality with facts. If he says gays and apostates bring corruption, ask him for evidence, and show evidence to the contrary. This is how such views were defeated in the West, and, in time, this is how they can be defeated in the Muslim world as well, and anywhere else where they still prevail. In conclusion, we should not allow people to hide behind the moral relativist argument to justify immoral actions. As I've explained, morality can be seen as universal, if we make the distinction between primary and secondary laws. Once you've established this distinction, you can look for the primary law that your opponent is breaking, ask them to affirm that they believe in this law, and then proceed to ask why they are breaking it. From here, you can continue along the lines I've suggested.